Ladies and gentlemen, some technical information concerning the use of your headset receiver. To switch it on, just push power button, connect headset to receiver, and adjust the volume controls for a comfortable listening level. Then select the channel. Channel 1 for English, channel 2 for Italian. Keep the receiver as shown in the picture, front side up, and do not cover it. You can carry your disposable headsets with you, but please leave the receiver on the chair. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we invite Alberto De Toni, Secretary General of the Conference of Italian University Vice-Chancellors, to the podium.
Madam Minister, Madam President, distinguished colleagues, students, and guests, ladies and gentlemen. I speak for everybody at the University of Udine when I say that we all personally feel very proud and honored to welcome you to Palazzo Garzolini, the top of Wasserman, for the momentous occasion of this G7 Higher Education Summit. The meeting is one of many events connected to the G7 in Taormina. To underscore the global significance of our being here, let me just mention that present today are representatives of over 100 universities and research institutes from Europe, North America, and Asia, and also more than 60 organizations from the sectors of education, economics, politics, administration, and culture. Coming together like this provides a vital opportunity for engagement between universities, institutions, and ministries of education from many countries to develop a very supportive and fruitful relationship as we work in unison to achieve universal access to learning. The Jesuits realized long ago that the best strategy for assisting people in the world was giving them access to education as the most powerful instrument to change the world, and to give people power to unshackle themselves from ignorance and misery. Later, the Salesians maintained the Jesuit missions, guaranteeing the education for the children of the poor classes. Today, all committed educators know that the transfer of knowledge empower individuals, communities, and entire societies to better themselves. Having access to education being able to read and write, being able to understand, to reason and evaluate the consequences of one's decisions is totally empowering. Education is the basis of democracy, self-determination, and freedom of choice, which gives people everywhere the capacity to make informed choices about the fundamental issues that govern their lives and futures and those of their children. Access to education creates a fertile field where enlightenment can be cultivated, and this is the terrain on which to shape a fair and just society. The fruit of this conference will be the manifesto Education for All, Action for a Sustainable Future, a set of principles and guidelines for universities, institutes of higher education, and Ministry of Education throughout the world. It carries a symbolic significance that this manifesto be written here in Italy, home of the first university in the world, and especially for us in Friuli Venezia Giulia, because of this region's unique role in Europe as meeting point of three different European cultures: Latin, Slavic, and Germanic. Education is the best way to equip forthcoming generations for the challenges of the future and to achieve a sustainable society. University is a key institution which enables social cohesion and the formation and dissemination of truth via research, knowledge transfer, and education. This is an increasingly important role in this age, with new challenges for tolerance and integration. Education for sustainability is an ideal coupling because the greatest risk to humankind and to the planet is the folly of not recognizing the importance of sustainability. Thanks go to our Minister, Valeria Fedeli, for her presence and the support of the Ministry of Education and Research. Thanks also to the President of Friuli Venezia Giulia, Deborah Serracchiani, for her backing, as well as to the President of the Fondazione Friuli, Giuseppe Morandini. Additionally, thanks must go to the CRUI, to the President Gaetano Manfredi, and the board of CRUI, with whom we envisioned a project which sees the G7 as an imperative opportunity to debate and develop in direction in which collective interest can go hand in hand. I wish most especially to express my gratitude to all of you here present for your participation, your bringing your ideas and perspectives so generously to these round tables. I would like to finish now with one of my favorite quotes. One's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never returns to its original dimensions. Long live education.
Now we give the floor to Flavio Pressacco, Vice President of the Friuli Foundation. And now we give the floor to Flavio Pressacco, Vice President of the Friuli Foundation.
Oh, really? I'm not the Vice President. I'm only a member of the board. Anyway, on behalf of the Chairman, Giuseppe Morandini, and the board of Friuli Foundation, it's a pleasure to express our greetings to all the distinguished participants in this important event, the Knowledge Festival. Our foundation inherited 25 years ago financial and real estate resources, but also, and by no means of lesser value and meaning, 2,000 years of culture and tradition. It could be summarized, inherited the identity of our people and our territory. To be more specific about knowledge, let's recall here just two names. Paul the Diacon, writer of the Historia Langobardorum, and Paulinus of Aquileia, two of the most influential scholars of the Carolingian Renaissance. The second one, appointed by Charlemagne as master of the Schola Palatina, the think tank that anticipated by more or less 400 years the establishment of the university institutions in Europe. Keeping account of this background, it's not surprising that culture and education at every level are the Foundation's main intervention areas in support of our community. And we are well aware that this represents the best way to honor the past and at the same time to deal properly with the future. In particular, we are convinced that the ability to be partner of a qualified knowledge network is the unique feasible strategy to help our land to face the difficult challenges of global competitions, but also to help shape the paths of peace, sustainable development, environmental protection, healthcare, alliance between generations, summing up to form the global citizen of the future. In this perspective, the university, and for sure our university, plays a key role on one side by contributing to build the network, and on the other side, helping many other entities, local entities, to get involved and to benefit from it. Indeed, only the university world is able to keep with the evolution of technology by fostering integration between fixed capital investments and early preparation of human capital with attitude to problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity in a permanent education framework. After that, I hope it is clear why we reaffirm here our long-term commitment to strongly support our university, dear rector, and in particular, the enthusiastic support to our magnificent rector for his initiative to organize here in Udine, with the cooperation of CR, UI, and in the framework of the festival, the G7, I think really the G10 of knowledge, to reflect on the knowledge roles as a main driver of world cultural, social, and economic development in the 21st century. Finally, we express a warm wish of a successful meeting and that all participants can also enjoy the many treasures of Udine and Friuli. Thank you.
And now we invite Giovanni da Pozzo, President of the Chamber of Commerce of Udine, to the podium.
Good morning to everybody. Rector De Toni, dear friend, Minister Fedeli, President of the region, Serracchiani, I first wish to express to all of you, behalf of the Chamber of Commerce of Udine, but so of the Union Camere, that is the Italian system of the Chamber of Commerce, My great pleasure at being at this important event organized by the University of Udine, my city. The relationship between the economy of our region and the university system, not only Udine, but so Sissa, so Trieste, is very close. To boost the cooperation opportunity in both academic and economic field is a common goal of all the regional actors. At the first, the region Friuli-Venezia Giulia, the system of our university, the many centers of research that are in my region, the Chamber of Commerce, all the Chamber of Commerce, and the Association of Entrepreneurs. We have carried out many events all over the world to strengthen international cooperation in Canada, in USA, Middle East, Japan, and others. Do you remember, Director De Toni, the visit in USA at the university in Berkeley, in Stanford, at MIT? And in the visit with us, we had many enterprises of the region. And this is important, this cooperation between the system of the university and between the economic system. Because with this visit, we have involved the economic relationship between our region and all the countries in the world where our company export. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I offer you my best wishes in your task and hope the session today and in the next day may be a great successful. Thank you very much.
And now we invite Mrs. Ana Luisa Thompson Flores, Director, UNESCO Regional Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe, here to the podium.
Good afternoon, presidents, rectors, vice presidents, also, I believe, the mayor of the city of Udine, and of course, Minister Fedeli. Thank you very much for this invitation. I wish to first and foremost highlight, which I think most of you know, but UNESCO is the UN organization with a unique mandate for higher education. It is extremely rewarding for us that Italy, as part of its presidency of the G7, pays such an extraordinary attention to universities and their role for a sustainable future. UNESCO is committed to support the governments and universities to implement the UN Sustainable Goal number 4, Education 2030. Within it, Target 4.3 is specifically to ensure, by 2030, an equal access for all women and men to affordable and quality universities. A long time ago, when I first started my job, my supervisor told me, and you allow me this personal touch, after 1 week of working, Ana Luisa, come back and make it simple. I went back to my office very happy. I said, oh, this is going to be easy. Little did I know that to make things simple is the hardest of the challenges that we all face. So in preparing for today's meeting, I wanted to highlight, I'm sure, concepts that are known to all of you. But I think it's important for all of us to remember that it's important sometimes to keep things simple. So I would like to highlight to you UNESCO's engagement is based on 4 observations. Today's challenges go beyond national borders and are impacting everyone. Thus, we need to find solutions and develop strategies at all levels, from the local to the global. In a globalized world with unresolved global challenges that are very real, consequences at the local level, education must help learners of all ages to become responsible, productive, and active citizens. 2, education must be relevant and respond to the aspirations of the new generation. Young people are concerned about the future and filled with hope. Young people want to contribute to society and have a place in our societies. Number 3, follow developments and educational practices. Education must adapt to the needs of the 21st century, hence the importance of quality and relevance of education. More focused on social emotional aspects of learning and non-cognitive skills. And this requires sometimes a shift in the role of teachers and educators. Last but not least, we believe that we must all comply and be in line with international commitments and agreements. That being said, if you allow me a couple more minutes, at present, opportunities for access to university are often insufficient with regard to gender, to social, regional, and ethnic background, and to age and disability. This results in a knowledge gap with serious consequences for social and economic development between and within countries. Therefore, it is imperative to reduce barriers to access to university and to provide various entry points in universities, irrespective of gender, age, ethnicity, or disability. Universities are critical for the education and skill development of future researchers, teachers, and leaders. Through their research function, they play a fundamental role in creating knowledge and underpin the development of analytical and creative capacities of modern societies that enable solutions to be found for local and global problems of sustainable development. Another important trend is the increasing mobility of staff and learners and the flow of students moving abroad to enhance academic credentials. As a consequence, the comparability, recognition, and quality assurance of qualification has become a growing area of concern. At the same time, mobility is an asset and an opportunity and should be enhanced to develop professors and students' competencies and global competitiveness. A well-established, probably regulated university system supported by technology, open educational resources, and distance education can increase access, equity, quality, and relevance, and can narrow the gap between what is taught at universities and what economies and societies demand. UNESCO provides policy advice in the areas of quality assurance, comparability, and recognition of tertiary education qualifications, and how to facilitate credit transfers between recognized institutions. UNESCO's commitment to education for a sustainable future is anchored in its vision of peace, that it is self-grounded in the belief that lasting peace is more than security and freedom from violence. As stated in our Constitution, since wars begin in the minds of men and women, it is in the minds of men and women that the defense of peace must be constructed. Universities have an immense catalytical and transformative role to play in global citizenship education and education for sustainable development, and in particular to ensure and to build the defense of peace in the minds of men and women. In conclusion, I wish you all, professors, rectors, chancellors, students, a very successful and productive discussion this afternoon and tomorrow. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
And now we invite Furio Onsel, Mayor of the city of Udine, to come to the podium.
Your Excellency, Minister of Education and Research, Fedeli, Your Excellency, Deborah Serracchiani, President of the region, Your Magnificence. This I say for the benefit of the foreign colleagues, because this is the way we address vice-chancellors, as magnificent. So, magnificent Professor De Toni, and of course all of you distinguished guests and prestigious visitors of Udine. I welcome all of you to Udine. It is indeed a memorable event for our city to host all of you, and I really wish you a very fruitful and productive work in the coming days, and the outcome, what I expect to be the Udine Declaration. I really hope that this declaration will have an impact, because indeed higher education, as it was quite rightly put previously, is one, well, really equitable education, and lifelong learning is one of the most important goals of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the fourth goal. And I really think that societies which have an equitable quality education are healthier societies. And this is what we need. Before serving as mayor, this I say, mayors in Italy are elected by the people. They stay in office for 5 years and can be re-elected, luckily, only once. And I am in my 10th year. But before being mayor, I served as vice-chancellor of the University of Udine. And one of the reasons why I ran as mayor was precisely because at the time, at the beginning of the 21st century, we had of course, the third mission of university, which was service to the community. Besides, of course, education and research, we had also service to the community. And I thought that the best thing to do that was to actually take up some kind of administrative responsibility. And so, in these 10 years, I have been inspired by a lot of what I've learned as rector. And in fact, in my administration, we have tried well, the first thing, we signed what was called the Covenant of Mayors to reduce by 20% the CO2 emissions, greenhouse gases emissions from fossil fuels. And this we have nearly achieved. And this we have achieved precisely because we have put into practice what the university was developing by the time. We have a huge cogeneration plant, a huge district system. Now we are building more district heating systems. The second point was, of course, one of the principles, not to leave anyone behind. And for this reason, I have been, and my administration has been greatly inspired by a program of the WHO, which is the Healthy Cities program. And because currently, and this is quite important, I think also for what you will be doing, we have, of course, many mega trends. I would say at least 3. One is urbanization, one is, of course, climate change, and the third is an aging society. And here, for instance, in Udine, our old age index is 218, which is pretty high. Now, we have really tried to put into practice inclusion, especially as far as the elderly are concerned. And so this issue of long life learning and how to try and adjust to the evolution, even to the economic of the evolution of the system, our elderly people has been one of the main concerns that we have tried to address. And then the third, so the principles were healthy society, sustainable society, and the third, of course, was anti-fascism. And again, this has been one of our inspiring and guidelines, having really a democratic society, an anti-fascist society, a society built on solidarity, a society built on inclusion. So for all these reasons, I really think that one of the pillars of democracy, and this is our only hope, is indeed education for all. So I think that the main message that you can deliver to the whole world from Udine, I think, is a message of the importance of education, especially for our democratic future and for our sustainable future. So let me wish you a very, very fruitful meeting, and thank you, and please enjoy your stay here in Udine. The weather is not always this wet, although this is one of the wettest parts of Italy, indeed.
And now we give the floor to Deborah Serracchiani, President of the Autonomous Region Friuli Venezia Giulia.
Good afternoon and welcome to everybody. We are proud that the G7 University Initiative has chosen Friuli Venezia Giulia as the host region for this event, and that the University of Udine hosts this fora. This choice proves that the excellence of our regional scientific and academic system is acknowledged at international level. It is worth highlighting that many themes of today and tomorrow's agenda are deeply consistent with the regional strategic orientation. As you know, Friuli Venezia Giulia is a small region situated at the heart of the enlarged Europe. One of the most important characteristics of this area is that it's a hub for science and technology, with a large community of foreign scientists and students, and an impressive network of about 50 public and private research centers. The region has a high percentage of high-level researchers for its population, the first in Italy for the territory of the city of Trieste, and one of the higher in the world, nearly 35 on 1,000. To have just a look at our research system, in our regional territory there are 3 universities: the University of Udine, of Trieste, and the International School of Advanced Studies, SISA, located in Trieste too, 4 scientific and technological parks, and many other important national and international research centers. The territory stands out also for the presence of an important research infrastructures at a pan-European level too. Our region boasts a long tradition in the field of scientific diplomacy and maintains historically culture's strong relationship with countries located in the Central and Eastern Europe. This context of excellence and these historical peculiarities have moved the regional government to strongly support the candidacy of Trieste to become the European Capital of Science 2020 and to host in the same year in the Old Harbour area the Euroscience Open Forum, ESOF, the largest biennial European meeting in research and innovation. The whole regional academic and scientific system endorses this initiative. The regional administration aims at promoting and supporting the excellence and the competitiveness of the university system, fostering at the same time the quality of teaching and the research by a financial supporting system settled in a logic of integration and optimization. Financial support is envisaged for a wide range of activities, such as institutional initiatives, research and technological transfer projects, initiatives for the organizational and management innovation, university orientation actions, as well as research infrastructures. In the same way, the region considers the universities an important part of the regional scientific system too. On August 8, 2016, the regional government undersigned an agreement to enhance the scientific and innovation system of Friuli Venezia Giulia, together with the Ministry of Universities and Research and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with the strategic aim to enhance the regional potential in terms of research and higher education and maximizing its impact to the regional social and economic context, to support intersectoral, entrepreneurial and scientific networking and interaction too. This agreement responds to the need to set up a scientific network of excellence so that the main national and international scientific institutions operating in the area may better coordinate their activities and share available services, with a view to increasing their ability to deliver results. It's meaningful to point out that these actions are consistent with the regional government's long-term strategies for the development and internationalization of the regional academic and research system. This orientation is included in bilateral agreement too, as the one signed with Bavaria in May 2016, which the Friuli Venezia Giulia regional government is implementing with countries deemed strategically relevant, particularly with reference to two ESAUR and EUSALP macro strategies. For the same purpose, at the present moment, the Friuli Venezia Giulia region has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Joint Research Center of the European Commission to establish the basis for future collaboration in the field of mutual interest, in particular in the area of the evidence-informed policy decision-making at the regional level and the development of the regional innovation ecosystems. At the same time, an agreement with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, is being drawn up to facilitate and promote joint collaborations and two-way scientific exchanges at both faculty and students level between MIT and the University of Udine, Trieste and Sissa, and to expand and deepen the already existing exchanges through new initiatives that will give them critical mass and increase their visibility and impact. In conclusion, our local territory is very pleased to host this important event. Our wish for these initiatives is to turn into an opportunity to ponder upon and examine a number of topics that are extremely interesting also in terms of managing our local territory. In particular, to strengthen the academic and research potential to the benefit of the socio-economic system, creating fruitful synergies at the international level and enhancing the international attractiveness of our territories for qualified human resources too. To this end, I sincerely wish all of you great success in the development of the initiative and send you a very warm welcome in Friuli Venezia Giulia. Benvenuti e buon lavoro.
And we now give the floor to Valeria Fedeli, Italian Minister for Education, University and Research.
Buongiorno, benvenuti.
Good day to everybody. I'm particularly pleased to be here in Italy and to welcome all foreign guests, and I'm very grateful to the mayor of Udine who welcomed us today. Thus we have rainy weather in this beautiful city as Udine. And this is a memorable day for culture and for dialogue on an international level. I also say good day to the President of Friuli Venezia Giulia. Thank the Vice Chancellor De Toni for this initiative and to be hosting this international event. I also like to thank the President, Mr. Manfredi, President of CRUI, to have guaranteed this collaboration with the universities on an international level and also debate on culture, education with two satellite events. of the G7. One was in Bologna and ended now here in Udine. I'd like to thank the Autonomous Region Friuli-Venezia Giulia, the Foundation Friuli, and all the organizers who contributed to the outcome of this event. The university today, more than ever, has to show that it is able to open up to all the societies. These 2 days confirm this also through a festival, which is also knowledge as a festival, in order to link knowledge to competences and skills. During these 2 days, representatives of universities from all over the world will discuss very important topics. I'd like to thank all of them, Italian and foreign provosts, presidents, and vice chancellors, because they show that today we have a mission, a social mission, as well as a didactic and a academic one. Such a high number of prestigious guests and participants will foster education for all, for sure. At the base of this conference, we have a global commitment of UNESCO, which has been pointed out shortly, that we need an education to be offered to every child or adult. And I'd like to mention it again today. This is a new and a right of every citizen, of every person in the world, to have access to education from the beginning of his life until his end of life, because this is the change, a global change that we are facing. I'm saying this because after 1.5 years, we have then also the International Organization of Labor, who will then also celebrate this special event. I also mentioned it otherwise. We are today called upon to ask ourselves what we can do as an educational system to create synergy between education and sustainable development. But what can we do, and what is necessary in order to foster all these things and to have sustainable development, and also to implement Agenda 2030 of the UN declarations? Educational systems are crucial for all our challenges in the future, not only for problem solving, but also for the future as a general. This is true for all the parts of education, starting from early childhood until to a research age. It's a challenge that is very complex, very difficult, that we have to tackle, also looking onto an international horizon without ideologies, enlarging our agenda, embracing everybody, and also including those who want to make the world a space that is characterized by solidarity, sharing of wealth and knowledge. And knowledge and education is the basis for this. So 2030 of the UN also call for all of us that we have to change our route in order to protect and to defend our planet from climate change, and to make sure that we have equal opportunities for everybody without exclusions. Also, when we read certain lines in the agenda, we can see that we have certain successful guidelines that we have to adhere to. The fourth goal is about quality of education. The fifth goal about also between the access of male and female population to education. It's something that has to be global, not only local. So everything is linked. What has been done in one country is linked to what is going on in our neighboring countries. So this has to be tackled. We are not only a citizen of Italy, of France, of Japan, we are citizens of the world. The world is global. We have challenges that are global and complex. Poverty, conflicts, and also political changes do generate new migration flows. So we have changes all over the world in climate changes with extreme weather conditions. New conflicts, immigration will be the challenge of the future. But health, good lifestyles, and a healthy environment and healthy food is important for all of us. Everywhere in the world, women and girls are still at the margin of society, are outcasts, are also victims of stereotypes, of victims of violence. Terrorism, of violence continue to be a complex problem for the world. It is our responsibility, and it's only together and also in cooperation can we tackle these problems and find a contact point in a global world which is important for all of us, which also touches our local community in everyday life. Changes that come with trends and modern technology need to be institutionalized and need policies to be governed with and also to be oriented and driven in order that complex nodes can be rendered more simple. This means inclusiveness, inclusion for everybody. We cannot stop modern development. We cannot stop technology. But what we need is not to go back, not to look back, not to put up barriers or to block exchanges. We need to understand everything and everybody. We have and to need a vision and to anticipate these visions. But sometimes societies just want to defend what they have. They erect walls. They do not want to open up to other countries. This is true also for Europe, because this has been going on for years now. The topic today and tomorrow is a very fertile territory for those who want to tackle this educational problem for the future generations. In the afternoon, during the 4 sessions of the various protagonists, we will discuss about very important problems that universities are facing, starting from 2 considerations. The first one is the same. During the next years, we will need higher education worldwide, and this is also a higher demand as a consequence of a major population increase. Second, the increase in demographics will then also create major problems, and I'd like to underline also that we will face different situations because universities will play a paramount role for sustainable development. And for this reason, the messages that we have to offer are the following. University is for everybody, for all. So in these meetings, these 4 meetings, we will discuss these topics. First, the role of the university in educating global citizens, developing common goals and fostering exchanges. Second, the importance to have an education that is driven by sustainability, going beyond disciplines and knowledge itself, and also with different goals in mind. Thirdly, we have to tackle also participation, democratic participation and social mobility. Fourth, factors that influence the demand for higher education will impact then also on societies as a whole. University systems have now been called upon to give answers to these challenges in order to foster sustainable development. This is true for climate change, for energy problems, and also renewable energies. These are endeavors that we need to focus on, and we will then also have progress in knowledge. This dynamic situation is needed also for sustainable development, extending it to economical and also social areas in order to have real progress. And I'm very thankful to have collaborators in these areas. During these 2 days, we will look into a new world with more knowledge, which will be fundamental not only to be in the know, but to be also able to govern and to interpret. We need to understand things in order to address them positively. But this vision has to be taken also to other countries, to other knowledge areas, also to those areas where we have community colleges and professional skills. So we need to adopt a new strategy, not only for our country, but also for other countries, in order to promote technology and networks with entrepreneurs and real economic. I'm talking now for Italy, the National Plan for Industry 4.0, which we are now developing together with the Ministry for Economic Development. And we also tackled this topic for habilitating skills with competence centers and also for high school changes. We do this for all the educational systems we have in Italy. So schools have to open up to the world, to the modern citizen. Schools are important because children and young people are educated in order to respect the world, the community, to inclusion, to be also addressing equal opportunities, because future citizens will then also be democratic people. I'm very thankful to all teachers and to everybody in the education sector, because our children can learn what it means to be real global citizens. They learn how to interpret news signals, how to be critical, how to be driven by curiosity and by their ideas, and how to be an entrepreneur, also assuming responsibility. In the first part of this year, we launched a lot of investment projects in order to bring education to a global community and to improve schools in Italy in general. This has been a very complex plan, subdivided in 10 steps, and is part of the Agenda 2030, focusing on the many dimensions of a global citizenship, and also underlining food, health, correct lifestyle, sports, and similar, but also knowledge and accessibility of cultural heritage, active citizenship, but also digital agenda with the changes that will take place in the future, but also economy is an important topic, integration, cohesion on a social level, referring also to immigration. This is an important investment we did to promote global citizenship, starting from the acknowledgement as a society with a network, with history and values, with problems and opportunities, local and global links. We need human mankind as a whole to tackle the challenges of the future, and we know that creativity is in ourselves. And we as a ministry, we set up a workshop in our ministry coordinated by Professor Giovannini, who is working on a shared idea on how to promote sustainable development in the knowledge area, starting from school to university. We will then adopt a national education plan for sustainability with international outlook, open to all countries and beliefs. Today we will listen to new experiences, to new policies related to education for all. We will have 4 parallel sessions, and tomorrow we will have then the outcome with a manifesto, which will be then published and read out to all the ministers and to all the countries in the world, in order to have a blueprint how universities can tackle these problems in the future with sustainability in mind and global citizenship in mind. We all are called upon to address these challenges and to guarantee good education for as much people as possible all over the world. Education has to be quality-driven, not only regarding research, but also at school level in order to have equal access in all fields of education for all girls and boys, independently from their contingencies, from geographic areas or poverty or richness. Also, foreign students should be fostered and promoted in order to help them linguistically to achieve a good level of knowledge. Also, we have to stress the fact that girls have to be promoted in order to reach certain goals, certain professions, certain skills are not open to female students. But skills are without color, so can be reached by everybody. These are all important for all the people who choose them. A society that works is a society that has a place for everybody who has talents, skills, persons, without obstacles, without discrimination, without prejudice or stereotypes, without frustration. We have to invest in our young citizens to have effective and good educational paths in order that we have societies without fears, without margination, without any difficulties, so that we have young people that can really master the problems of the future. These are the generations of our future because they themselves represent the future. The future belongs to all of us, but we only have one future, and it's our duty to make choices in order that also tomorrow we find a world that is better than the one that we have today. Because the manifesto that we will set up, you will also then describe objectives, very clear objectives, the time frame, how we can reach them, and altogether we will see if we are coherent in our choices. Thank you, and a fruitful outcome to all of you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the keynote address on the International Debate on Education for All in the Sustainable Development by Stephen Friedman, board member of the International Association of Universities and provost at Fordham University.
Thank you. I hope you can all hear me with this cordless microphone. And welcome, and thank you all for the wonderful and kind introductory remarks to this important meeting. As I was very pleased to hear in the first comment about Jesuit universities globally, especially their impact here in Italy. I've been involved in Jesuit education all of my life, a student at Jesuit institutions, 40 years in administration with Jesuit institutions. I'm not a Catholic, but I am very, very committed to the ideals of Jesuit higher education. Fordham University, the university that I serve as provost, we think of ourselves as the Jesuit University in New York, with international partnerships globally, many here in Italy, and I'm looking forward to opportunities to expand those relationships. But we have our primary programs in London, in China at Beijing, and in South Africa. I'm also here representing the International Association of Universities, which I'm very proud to be a board member. And I'm very happy to hear that UNESCO is not only well represented at these meetings, but is an important partner to the work that we do today and tomorrow. The International Association of Universities is a partnership involving about 700 universities around the globe. We are very much engaged because of our UNESCO presence to help at this meeting and help beyond this meeting to promote higher education in its broadest possible context. I was asked to speak for a short while. We may have a chance for a question or two at the end about the opportunities and challenges facing higher education globally. I'm going to emphasize during the first part of my talk the opportunities, because I think they're significant. But I will, if there's a little time, I've been asked to shorten a bit so that we can end at 3 o'clock, to speak about some of the problems as well. I think it's important to point those out. And the 3 challenges that I hope to speak about, but we can hopefully do that in roundtable discussions as well, are the global tensions that exist in this world and what that means for higher education, because I believe it's significant. I also want to speak about what I refer to as the Amazonification of higher education. I think it's a real challenge for all of us when we think of the internet and international organizations like Amazon. I think what is happening in higher education has some risks that we need to speak about. And I want to speak about partnerships as well and some of the problems that exist. But first, the contextual forces that are shaping and driving higher education. The next slide, please. Thank you. Obviously, we heard from several of the speakers that knowledge, especially in the next 2 generations, will be the driving force behind economic development in the north, in the south, and in the east and in the west. They're very different, the economic development opportunities globally, and in a few moments I'd like to describe the differences in the north and in the south and in the east and the west. But for most countries globally, growth and economic development are the main ingredients to success that all of our universities around the world are going to be either threatened by or enter into the mainstream in terms of opportunity. I believe, and I hope many of us around this room, that globalization itself brings unprecedented opportunities for interconnectedness. I'll speak also about unprecedented risks associated with competition in a global context. We at Fordham have a strong relationship with Peking University in Beijing, and that university is expanding dramatically in terms of student enrollment and research, in terms of hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars of funds devoted just at that one university to biotechnology research for the next 20 or 30 years dwarfs many of the budgets of international universities around the country and around the world. So when we think of opportunity, we need to think of those interconnections as being more vital in a global context. We mentioned a few moments ago in one of the earlier speeches that we're entering into an interesting period in terms of global higher education. There's much more polarity. Actually, I refer to that as multipolarities, and greater opportunities, which is positive for regionalization. But the point of this keynote is to highlight the importance of regionalization and the stresses associated with regionalization. And it's mainly in terms of connectedness. I'm sure in Italy, even in this part of Italy, the institutions see great opportunities. I've heard last night in a wonderful dinner about research in volcanic uncertainty and also in terms of earthquakes and the importance in this region of understanding the scientific dimensions of earthquakes. I think it's going to be very, very important in a regional context for universities to do what they do well. And seek opportunities in collaboration with institutions in the region that do things perhaps differently. And lastly, which another highlight of this keynote is we need to recognize the unsustainability of many of our current higher education models. I'll speak in a few moments about online education. And unfortunately, from my perspective, the MOOC opportunities of the last 10 years have gone away. And what is occurring currently globally is many more partnerships in the United States between private and public institutions and for-profit and non-profit institutions that are highly advanced in terms of data analytics and making available to students on a when-if basis and on a current basis the kind of education they're experiencing in a much more contextual way, related to their career plans, very engaged through data analytics to know the kind of student that would be best suited for the kind of instruction that we are providing at the specific time in their career where a badge or a specific set of knowledge could be made available either on ground or online. Contextual forces, we spoke a little while about it in the introductory remarks. We need to face up to the incredible inequalities that exist among and within nations, bringing a whole tirade, and I use the term tirade, and I'm very appreciative that we have a translator here. Some of what I say, I hope, is translated in a way that is clear and understandable. A tirade of unforeseen consequences related to populism, protectionism in terms of policies that shape the relationship between higher education and research institutions around the globe, and new alliances. When I think about my country, and I'm going to try to be as diplomatic as possible, there is a great deal of risk associated with the U.S. current leadership and the implications for higher education in global context. With restrictions on immigration, which is true throughout the world, with restrictions on immigration policies and visa policies, with restrictions in the U.S. associated with H-1B visas and job opportunities post-graduation, one has to think more creatively and imaginatively in how we can provide education to all. And I know during the roundtable discussions, that's going to be a significant part of discussions. I want to highlight demographic trends. Through my work on the International Association of Universities, I've been astounded by the tremendous growth in doctoral programs on one continent, and that's Africa. There is a much larger growth in doctoral programs on a percentage basis in Africa than any other part of the world. And many of the African universities that are emerging as research universities are looking for research partnerships, often with European institutions. We collectively, internationally, need to think about those opportunities. In creating doctoral programs, we heard about the relevancy of doctoral programs in the earlier part of the day. We need to think about the relevancy of joint doctoral programs made available to an emerging group of young researchers in African universities who need our support desperately globally to advance their country's economic development. In the North, we have a different problem. In many countries in the South, we have a young population that is looking to master's and doctoral programs where their institutions are not well served, primarily for historical reasons. In the North, where most of us were educated and are leading our institutions, our student population is getting older. And the population that is aging, and I mean that in a positive way, I consider myself in that group as well, really requires, as we heard earlier, a very different set of skills. And most importantly, changing skills. Changing in terms of the workplace, in terms of their careers, in terms of opportunities that are available in Italy, other countries in Europe, countries in Asia, where the shifts in economic development are pretty significant. Many of us in the International Association of Universities are focusing on Asian countries, China being one example, but India being as important as an example. When we think of the changes in educational opportunities in Indian universities, We think about opportunities for European, North American, and South American institutions to play a much more central role in making programming available. I hope today, later in our roundtable discussions, we can think about the differences in institutions in the West and in the East and in the North and the South. And the key of this keynote is to think of those interconnectedness in terms of opportunity. Plenty of challenges, but it's the opportunity that is most significant. There is no doubt when we think of parts of the world, the Middle East being the best example, there is a high level of insecurity associated with partnerships, higher education partnerships, ethnic tensions, religious tensions. I believe it's going to be very important for our universities to enter into the fray. And I use the term enter into a fray in a positive way. We have a responsibility, we have an opportunity to make available educational programs that ease tension and encourage cooperation. One example at Fordham University, we've established in the last several years an international program in humanitarian affairs. It's a United Nations sponsored program, but that's one area in terms of a global education where universities are entering not as an institution, but as a group of institutions that provide students from around the world opportunities to study together in the classroom and in the field. I consider that extremely important in designing programs for the future. There's no doubt that volatility and complexity and unpredictability are going to be forces that are going to shape our curriculum and program. As we develop programs, what do we need to keep in mind? Higher education agenda going forward. Thank you. All of our programs need to demonstrate quality. Quality is key. And relevance is equally important as we develop global partnerships. We need to be attentive to national competitiveness and ensure employability. I can't stress enough. I know that's true in the United States, and I know it's true for my colleague in the United States, Sam, good to see you, that we have to think even more creatively about career opportunities as it relates to the completion of baccalaureate degrees, completion of master's degrees, completion of doctoral degrees, and even postdoctoral. More and more of our students are expecting a link between their education and their career. It's our employability and our responsibility go hand in hand. We need to look, as we said today, about local and regional challenges. One important dimension of higher education agenda that we're going to speak about in our roundtables is the relevance and significant relevance of innovative research. As we continue to see our universities in volatile periods in terms of enrollment and in terms of the value of the education, as we reprogram the value proposition associated with higher education, we need to engage our students in research. Often we've thought of that engagement at the graduate level. A message for us to think about sustainability of higher education is we need to make that same opportunity relevant to undergraduate students. Almost all of our undergraduate students now are looking for experience involving internship, career placement, scientific research within the classroom and in the field, and they all need to be linked, not only in a socially responsible way, but in a local and a global way. Before I get to speak very quickly about some challenges, let me highlight some of the global trends in higher education. Unfortunately, I think this is a challenge for us. Many of our students in all parts of the world are looking to the given of priority in employability. And what does this translate to for many of our students is opportunity in the STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, and math. I hope in our roundtable discussions we can explore that dichotomy. a larger proportion of our students are looking to study business, finance, technology, science, engineering, and mathematics. They're looking to study mathematics for several key reasons. In the United States, most of the key job opportunities going forward will be in careers like bioinformatics, information sciences as it relates to almost all of our software and program design, and in fields of data analytics, as I described, in terms of being much more big data in terms of analysis. Those three disciplines within the math area are employing a very large proportion of our students that graduate. What we need to do is ensure that those experiences that the students have are relevant, as I described, good critical thinkers, and that makes the conversations very difficult and hard to predict. The second opportunity, so what I'm suggesting in terms of the issues of STEM, how do you develop a humanities, social science, STEM program that is broad, holistic, and integrated? Another message of this keynote address is to think of the integration of knowledge in a way that allows students the choice of careers, but integrate in a much more holistic way all the dimensions that allow for good critical thinkers, which is really the best in terms of employability. Just a moment on online education. I use the term Amazonification. I know that term might be difficult to understand within a European context. It partly means commodification, but it means more than that. We need to fear the possibility that in the next 2 to 3 generations, we will see higher education organizations develop very specific packages of information made available on the internet for a relatively low sum, where students receive the education that they're seeking outside of institutions that are 400 or 500 years old. I had the great pleasure, our International Association of Universities met in Siena in October, and I was thrilled about the long history of the University of Siena. Over 450 years old, I was there for the celebration. But what I fear is institutions that are 450 years old, and Fordham University is 175 years old, will lose out to educational entities that are more nimble in the marketplace and make available career opportunities for students in educational packets that are tied to their careers. So I worry about that, and I ask us to think about that in terms of what that may mean for legacy institutions that almost everyone around the table is associated with. Legacy institutions are going to rethink their future as a result of some of these trends, especially if you contextualize it within the global arena. Two words or three on the UN sustainability projects. As we talked about earlier, the agenda for item 4 on quality education is going to be a big part of our conversation. All of the 17 goals are interconnected. As I said about higher education, we need to think of these goals in the context of its holism. We need to understand environmental science and its education. We need to understand the issues of good health and medicine and programs associated with medical degrees that can be incorporated in a broader context of relationships. I've spoken about the key dimensions of international education, leadership, higher education and sustainable development, and information and computer technologies. In conclusion, what are we to do going forward? And then we may have time for 1 or 2 questions. We need to develop and share expertise with each other through the UN Sustainable Goals and develop as much as possible research opportunities for our faculty in a global context. We have faculty here today, although most of us are administrators, and we have students here today. I'd like to keep our focus on our students, just for one moment. How can we develop, through the UN Sustainability Project, opportunities for our students in partner institutions to spend a summer away, to spend the semester within each other's institutions, and take career opportunities in a semester to develop internships between an institution based in Rome and an institution based in New York City. Wouldn't it be a tremendous opportunity for students from Udine to have experiences for one semester in a job placement in one of the corporate entities in New York? How do we encourage peer-to-peer learning, peer-to-peer institutional learning? I mean that for a student exchange, but I also mean it in terms of institutions. It's extremely important for us to learn from each other. I'll end by saying there are enhanced initiatives in sustainable development around the globe for universities, but we need to be nimble, we need to be innovative, we need to understand that we can't do everything, and what we do well, we need to pay attention to. We need to be aware of the risks that I just described, but see the risks as fortunate in a time when our students are going to be spending their careers in many parts of the world, and as they leave our institutions, are going to be spending time in many parts of the world. And what we are doing is to create the learning environment that the students stay with us their entire lives. Not for 1 year, not for 4 years, not for 8 years, but for decades and decades to come. Thank you for this opportunity. If there's a question or two, I'll be willing to take that.
And now we invite Alberto De Toni to the podium for the conclusions of the plenary session.
Sì. And now I am calling our minister, Valeria Fedeli, because for all the university of our country, I will give you, come here please, Valeria, the sigillo of our university for all the system. Thanks because you are here with us. Thanks for your involvement, your engagement. We hope you are a guide for Italian and also for European instruction education.
Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you very much. Grazie dottore.
Grazie, veramente. Possiamo andare.
Di qua, se no non ci si vede.